What's up, dudes? Okay, so this weekend a lot of stuff has happened. Two really big things. First is the Revive holiday release came out. I did most of the artwork for it. I'm super proud of everything, and today we're going to talk about how I designed one of the skateboards for that line. But before we get to that, I want to share with you the other big thing. My new little mini line of enamel pins called Dead Dudes. I don't like to get too salesy or promotional in these videos, but I'm super excited about how these pins turned out. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, make some cool enamel pins, and yeah, there's 3 pins. I redid my shop that is linked below in the description. They're all available on there. So yeah, do me a favor and go check them out. I'm really proud of them. Bleh. Promotion stuff done. Let's switch over to the computer and I'll tell you about how I designed skateboards for Revive. Alright dudes, I'm going to show you how I start from a blank skateboard template, which is what you're looking at right now, and design a skateboard all the way to finished, ready to send off to the manufacturer to have boards printed. I'm not going to go into every little detail of my process of how I do every little thing. I'm more going to talk about my ideas about how I go from step to step. So if you have any questions about specifics on how I do things, leave a comment below. I'll do my best to answer everything, and if I get enough comments about a certain thing, I'll even make a separate video showing you guys exactly how I do certain things. That being said, I'm going to show you how I designed Doug Desautel's newest pro model for the Mythical series. I'm using Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator, and I go back and forth between them a lot, so I'll try to make sure you guys know when I switch back and forth. So this is where I start every single design on a blank skateboard template. Usually Andy, Brian, and I, we have a phone conversation. We come up with some themes of what we're going to do. In this case, mythical creatures. And so Doug's was the first deck that I designed. So I'm showing you this one because this is where most of the planning and figuring out how these decks are going to look happened. Every time I start with this blank template, it's a preset size based on what the manufacturer is going to print, and it's easy for me to just sketch and figure out the basic layout of the design. I think I started, we knew already that Doug was going to be a Minotaur, so I just started drawing, trying to figure out how it was going to look, and I ended up scrapping this, or not even finishing this sketch, because I wasn't liking how the proportions were looking in this sketch. So I just scrapped it and started over and came up with this. I wanted to make sure the creature was on the board entirely and not just like its head and torso. You can see at this point this is still really rough. It's just me figuring out kind of the layout of the board. And you can also see that there's some spots missing, his eye and his other leg and stuff, and I knew that I didn't need to draw those because the design was going to be pretty much symmetrical except for his hand holding the axe, so I just left those parts off. Now that the sketch is done, I'm going to copy this and we're going to move into Illustrator. And let me zoom out here. So what you're looking at here is my working file for this series. So you can see all 3 of the decks are in this file, and this is just where I'm kind of actually illustrating the graphic. And you can see that I make copies of things along the way, so I can go back and easily change things. So I've copied my sketch, brought it into Illustrator, and what I did from here was I turned the transparency of the sketch down, and then I just used the pen tool to draw the Minotaur over top of the sketch. And you can see that, you know, the sketch is loose and everything, and you can even see some changes. So like the Minotaur's kind of like skirt or shorts thing, I changed up. Some of the proportions are a little bit different. The horns are like kind of a different shape and everything. But this is really just getting the line art down in a style that I think looks cool. And these first 2 parts, the sketch and then doing the line art, are kind of where most of the work happens. Once I can get to the line art, usually that's when the rest of the design falls into place and is a little bit easier to finish. So from here, I take this line art and we're gonna go back into Photoshop. and I'm pasting, just so you can see, I'm pasting the line art back into the template. I wanted to keep the colors of this design very limited, so not too many colors, but I wanted to add a little bit of detail. I added this gray tone. I copied this gray into another file and then made this halftone effect, which is basically like little dots. So when you're very far away from the design, it actually looks like it's a darker color because there's the gray over top. It'll make more sense when we go back into Illustrator. Okay, so next, this is a little trick that I use to make really clean line art look a little more distressed and rough. So what I do is I have a bunch of pre-saved distress files, and I just, pick one that is kind of chunky. It's just white over top of the black. So I flatten the image, which you always want to save version. Like before I flatten it, I save a version, then flatten it, because we're about to like totally mess up the graphic. So flatten the image, and then I blur it with Gaussian blur. So by doing this, it looks, it looks super blurry, right? But then if you go image adjustment threshold, you do that, and you can see it made the distress much more chunkier and rougher. It even made like that halftone pattern kind of blurry and weird, and just kind of gave the whole design a little bit of roughness to it. And it kind of fits a little bit more with the whole mythical theme, because if you think about, these are like sort of ancient creatures or whatever, so it just gives it a kind of cool feel, right? So after that, we're gonna go back into Illustrator. Hopefully all that made sense. If not, leave a question in the comments and I'll try to answer. So we come back into Illustrator, and I actually live traced the artwork to like re-vectorize it. Basically, I'm turning the line art back into vector form, which is what it started with this pen tool thing before. And then I'm just using, I think I just used, the pencil tool, filled in all of the colors I wanted. So here's the example of, the Minotaur's fur, I guess, is this purple color. But by having this halftone effect, the little dots here, when you're way zoomed out, it's like he has a darker purple. So yeah, it's keeping the number of colors down. After that, we're like pretty much there on the design. I just bust out the skateboard template again, put him on it, and then it's time to like get Doug's name on there and then revive. You can see down here I kind of made this custom logo for this series, and then I think Doug's name is just a font that I use that same trick that I showed you in Photoshop to roughen up the font a little bit. So yeah, at this point I was pretty happy with the design, but I felt like there's just something missing. Background is a little too bare bones, and so real simple, I made just this little stripe pattern, rotated it, and then colored it. And I think, I even took the stripes back into Illustrator and did the same trick to roughen them up as well. So everything fits together nicely, like every element of the design kind of goes together. Use the same technique over and over on the designs. This is where I ended up. So it's good to take this into its own file and put it into the template. So this template, I make sure that everything like runs off of the edge enough, so when the boards are printing at different sizes, there's no like weird holes or anything. I line up all the type just right, get everything just so it's spaced perfectly on the board. And then I grab my Pantone book here and pick all the colors. You can see down here, these are all Pantone codes that the printer will use to match the exact color. And then that's pretty much it. Save it, upload it to Dropbox, and send it off to the printer, and they really do the rest. That covers how I designed skateboards for Revive. Some of the little things going back and forth between Illustrator change, but pretty much the process stays the same every time, with a sketch, line art, fixing it up with color and texture, and then getting the layout just right before putting it in the template. Yeah! Okay, dudes. hopefully that was cool. If you have any questions about anything I went over in the video or anything in general, leave a comment below and I will for sure answer it. Go check out the whole holiday winter revive and force lines at theshredquarters.com. That'll be linked in the description below. And also go check out the Dead Dude pins in my new, like, totally revamped shop. There's comics and little prints and everything in there. Maybe some t-shirts as well. Yeah, thank you to the people who've already bought stuff, and thank you for checking it all out. You guys are awesome. So, yes. Hope you have an awesome, productive week, and I'll see you later.